What if this whole Mark Nawaqanitawase going to Rugby League was just scratching the surface of what's to come? I've been thinking the Wallabies losing one of their most promising players absolutely sucks. Especially Marky Mark. Come on, he actually had a bit of swagger about him and was one of the only good things to come out of the Wallabies' miserable World Cup campaign. Aussie rugby fans needed hope, and he gave us that. Rugby League is about to cause some major headaches for Australian rugby, and losing Marky Mark is only just the beginning. Okay, let's be honest, it was the Muppets running Rugby Australia that led us into this hot mess. For those of you not from Australia, Union and League kind of made peace with each other over the last decade, and instead of being seen as rivals, they were kind of working side by side, in a sense. Clubs from both codes would organise opposed and collaborative training sessions with each other. When Folau was banned from rugby, the NRL also blacklisted Folau, and so on. There was some kind of camaraderie happening. This was clearly a deal better for Union. Mainly because League is so much more popular, and if they really wanted to, they could make life extremely difficult for Rugby Union. Most people probably already know that Rugby Australia signed Joseph Suaalii on an astronomical contract, $1.6 million per year, a figure we all know Rugby Australia can't really afford. To their credit, he is a genuine freak of nature and is every chance of being a world beater in rugby. Now, this generated a lot of hype and media attention, but was kind of acceptable, as it wasn't the first time a genuine NRL star had crossed codes. In fact, we had heard this story so many times before. Semi Radradra, Sonny Bill, Izzy Folau, Marika Korombete, and they're only the recent examples. They all stamped their mark on rugby globally. It's a recruiting strategy rugby's used and on many occasions has been successful. For the most part. So while this move was nothing out of the ordinary, the staunch attitude of Australian rugby was. Peter V'landys, the Australian Rugby League chairman, spoke about the signing, claiming Joseph will get terribly bored and will be paid twice the money for doing half the work in Union. Ooh, shots fired. While this definitely was a jab at rugby, it's kind of understandable when you've lost one of your key players to a rival code. Now, it's one thing to be happy with a signing and going about it humbly. It's another thing to jump on every TV and radio station to straight up antagonise the NRL. And that's pretty much what Rugby Australia did. You had the chairman of Rugby Australia claiming there's lots of league players that have reached out to us and expressed his excitement over luring some of the highest profile NRL players to rugby. You had documents being leaked from Rugby Australia labelled the hit list, which were all confirmed as genuine. And you even had the Wallabies coach being interviewed on New Zealand Rugby Show, The Breakdown.
You guys are really trying to hone in on some more Rugby League players?
Yeah, we got about 3 or 4 that are ready to sign, mate. Big names too. Big names. I can't tell you now, but...
It was kind of entertaining for us fans, but in hindsight, probably not the best idea. Bro, why would you start beef with the sport that's already taking it easy on you? Now, I guess while everyone was caught up in the chirping, it was pretty easy to forget that League could, in essence, cripple Union if they wanted to. And what many people watching this video might not know is in Retaliation, Peter V'landys announced they are considering the idea of reducing the cost of team salary caps if they recruit from rival codes. This means you could essentially pay a player $1 million to come over from the Wallabies, and it would be given to your team at a discount against the salary cap. In essence, if you recruited players from other codes, you could have a team worth more value and still adhere to the salary cap. In my opinion, this was definitely a warning shot from Peter V'landys, a message to Hamish McLennan and Eddie Jones to ease up. Now in this situation, the smart thing to do would have been to completely stop. But this is where I feel egos may have gotten in the way and completely screwed things up. Because the war of words and public berating would continue. Think about it, you have the person in charge of rugby union in Australia. You would expect one of the busiest and most challenging jobs you could sign up for. Openly discussing his eagerness to signing the biggest names in rugby league and how they're open to making the switch. Probably best described by the Raw newspaper as frothing. I mean, it really got ridiculous. Calling rugby league scrums lame, claiming an arm wrestle at a pub would be harder than a league scrum, then offering a $100,000 stake to have a televised scrum match. Followed up with a spelling test to just sledge the intelligence of every rugby league player. Just ridiculous and not really productive for either code. I still can't believe this all happened. The epitome of professionalism. But it was bloody funny. What your casual fan of rugby might think is it's just the signing of Mark Nawaqanitawase, but really it's opened the floodgates for many more signings. Because that berating continued, Rugby League have gone on to ratify that decision to give discounts to clubs for signing cross-code superstars. and no one will be impacted more than rugby union. So don't expect it to be just one Wallaby who leaves the game. I expect a host of Wallabies and potentially even All Blacks to make this decision. As predominantly a rugby union fan who loves both codes, a few years ago TJ Perenara and Artie Surveyor teased the idea of joining the NRL. Now at the time I thought this would be the coolest thing in the world, and it probably still would be. There's been so many success stories of league players coming over to union and carving up. Wouldn't it be interesting to see how a professional rugby union player fared in rugby league? Someone who's going over with not much league experience. Now I know a lot of my union buddies out there will be saying, Uggy, there's already a ton of players in the NRL with a union background. But I mean seriously, from a professional rugby union level over to rugby league. If you're not from Australia, there's this common thing that happens. Really promising rugby league players get signed to private schools to play rugby union, which works out for them as they get to go to one of the best schools, and on the side they can usually continue their rugby league journey. Now, this pool of players heavily gets drained back into the NRL once they finish school. It sort of creates, trust me, I went to one of these schools myself, it creates this theory that rugby league are stealing all the union players, where really most teenagers have played both games and a lot of the ones who do move back to league started in league first. But this massive headache that this 9 to 10 month period is going to have on Australian rugby in the future is pretty scary and pretty significant to the game. Already rugby union is sort of lacking personality in players that have followed in Australia, because it lacks media attention and many players are lost to rugby league or overseas competitions. The thing is, NRL clubs will be looking to boost their rosters at a discount, and it doesn't make sense for them to have a look at AFL, NFL or NBL, the basketball comp, to recruit players. They'll all be eyeing off rugby union. Worrying signs ahead. Let me know what you think about this one. I really had to take some time to unpack the consequences, and now that I have, it's pretty clear and it's pretty grim.